Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield, your tactics and analytics podcast, courtesy of the Blood Red channel. I'm Josh Williams, and I'm joined as ever by my co-host, David Hughes. Dave, how's things?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, mate. Looking forward to the show.
You look like you're in heaven a little bit there. Like
Yeah, well,
white background and all this, little halo above your head.
Tactical, that is. Tactical.
Yeah, unlike myself.
I think we're getting this room painted, actually, this week.
Yeah, I think
might be different.
Most of our listeners are listeners anyway. I don't think we have as many viewers. Those who do viewers every week, fair play, your choice. I don't know why, considering the kip offers.
Yeah, I think it was all right in the studio, wasn't it? But since we've been on these like Skype, Google Hangouts, you're not getting the best view. But as you said, whatever floats your boat. If you enjoy it, then go for it.
Yeah, fewer haircuts as well.
Yeah.
So this week anyway, Analysing Anfield wise, we are going to address what happened against Southampton. Nice little win. We're going to look briefly ahead to Man United because we, as I said, we did preview that a few weeks ago. Even though we're just going to touch on maybe what's changed a little bit in the meantime since. We're also going to look at West Brom, but again, fairly briefly because to be quite honest, they're not the most interesting team. It should, this is COVID season, but it should be a relatively straightforward win. But we'll get to that anyway. And just as a bit of an optional add-on, considering it seems to be trending a little bit at the moment, me and Dave are going to do a Monday Night Football style season picks. So obviously those who watch Monday Night Football will have seen Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher conduct theirs recently. There was obviously a bit of debate around and stuff, plenty of tweets and things. So we're going to get into that, just our picks and that sort of thing, bit of fun. But first of all, Dave, Southampton. You was at the game. Thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was a slow start, which is something we spoke about, didn't we, at the time? Liverpool just looked to lack a little bit in terms of intensity, but maybe a yard off the usual pace. But then, after about maybe 20, 25 minutes, started growing into it, started looking the better side. And, although Southampton obviously had chances, I thought Alisson was really strong in the game. He pulled off those two really good saves, didn't he? Just prior to the opening goal. I thought, either side of that, Liverpool were the better side. I'm not saying it was a fantastic performance by any means, but I do think Liverpool were the deserving winners on the day.
Yeah, it was a strange one for me because I don't usually get too carried away early on, but I think it was maybe about 15, 20 minutes in. I think I sent you a message, Dave, and just said, is it just me or do we look really, what's the word? I don't know, just a bit flat. Considering we hadn't played for a few days, it was at Anfield, we had something to play for, we were against the team that were a little bit on the ropes. I thought Liverpool's intensity coming into the game was a little bit lacking. I expected a little bit better. And I do think Liverpool deserved to win the game. But yeah, just the way the match played out a little bit, I just expected Liverpool to offer a little bit more. Maybe I'm asking a bit too much there. I mean, beforehand we predicted, I think it was 3-0 each. We predicted it finished 2-0, which I suppose isn't far off. But yeah, I just think performance-wise, I thought Liverpool would just look a bit faster, bit of a quicker tempo, a bit hungrier. But then again, Dave, I don't know if you've seen the numbers, but I suppose what I'm saying isn't really captured in the numbers because the numbers look relatively fine.
Yeah, it looks like I did have a look this morning because I knew we'd be talking about it today on the show, and I hadn't looked since the game. And I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, because based on obviously expected goals, shots, etc., you're looking at a fairly reflective scoreline. Maybe you could argue Southampton should have had a goal. It should maybe closer to a 2-1 win or 2-1 kind of performance. But yeah, that ties in pretty much with what we're saying, that Liverpool were the better side without being fantastic. And and deserving of the win, I guess, on the day.
Yeah, the expected goals on the day was Liverpool 2.2, which is good. That probably is in the neighbourhood of what I expected going into the game. Maybe just the whole eye test thing just felt a little bit different. And Southampton had next year 1.3, which, as you just said, would have probably been enough on a normal day to score at least once. But obviously we had Alisson in goal. On the other side, the shot count was a little bit more even. Liverpool had 14 shots. Southampton had 12, so that's not too far from you have a goal, we have a goal, really. And that's the kind of the type of thing that you want to avoid. But I felt like the shots that they did generate, it felt like we kind of gave them away. We kind of just presented them with those opportunities rather than them being really created by Southampton as a team, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. I think try and think of a moment in the first half. I think it was the first half, maybe it was the second, where it was just given away really cheap in defence, or maybe Alisson give it away actually, which I really like Alisson. I thought he was fantastic for large parts on Saturday, but I think sometimes because of the role he's given, he can be susceptible maybe to the odd kick like that where puts you under a little bit of trouble. He had one of them. I think there was a few of those moments, but then they've just been a theme of Liverpool all season, haven't they? Really, there's just not this same kind of security that they've had. And I guess a lot of that ties in with the players who are missing, the key players who kind of bring that cool, calm, collected presence to the side. And without them, the players who come in just don't replicate it the same. Like Reece Williams playing again. Still a lot to ask of him, isn't it, to come into the side and be like a top performer. So, all those things considered, I think he's done quite well.
Yeah, you mentioned Alisson there. I had a look at his numbers yesterday, actually, and he's one of the few Liverpool players that's actually performing beyond what you'd expect from, I suppose. So in terms of, expected goals, similar to how we've referenced finishing in the past few weeks, Alisson's overperforming really in the saving department. So using post-shot expected goals, which, in essence, really, I'll use the description of it on the site. It just says positive numbers suggest better luck or an above average ability to stop shots, whereas negative numbers obviously suggest the opposite. Alisson so far this season has saved about 5.3 goals more than the shots that he's faced on target have been worth. So, he saved Liverpool about 5-6 goals there because of his ability to stop shots beyond what you'd expect. For a bit of perspective, that's the third best in the league. Top of the league is Areola at Fulham. He's saved 7.5 shots above expectation. And then you've got Emi Martinez, who's saved 7.2 goals above expectation. At the complete opposite end, you have Alex McCarthy, who obviously didn't play against Liverpool. He was on the bench, but he's underperformed by 6.1 goals. Carl Darlow's down there for Newcastle, Rui Patricio at Wolves. So that is one area that Liverpool have been able to... That's one area that I suppose a favour has been given to Klopp. Klopp's had generally his players doing the opposite of doing favours for him this season by not performing to expectation, but Alisson's performed beyond that. So
yeah, I actually, when we were talking before, I actually forgot that we'd said on Saturday that although we both agree, Liverpool, performance wise, did edge you. Certainly my opinion, but I think it was a really good thing that we said afterwards that it was a kind of tale of two goalkeepers as well, wasn't it? When you look at the performance on the night, because although he didn't do anything stand out, wrong or an error, I think Fraser Forster just didn't look anywhere near the same level. And when both teams are creating chances like it happened on Saturday. Sometimes it can be, like one player, a goalkeeper that makes a difference on the results. And I think, at least from Liverpool point of view, that was the case on Saturday. But maybe it could be argued it was the same from Southampton point of view as well, but just for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I actually flagged Fraser Forster at the end of the game too, didn't I? I thought he was a bag of nerves, to be honest. The way his distribution in particular, he did not look comfortable whatsoever. And then when it comes to the goalkeeping side of things, where you'd like to think he'd make up for it, I don't think he did either. This season, he's underperformed expectation by about 1.8 goals. Not too much, but still an underperformance. And,
he hasn't played a ton though, has he, either? That's important to note on that.
No, that's true. And I think specifically, the Mane goal, there's that old unwritten rule, isn't it? The 6-yard box is the goalkeepers. So even though it was a great pass by Salah and stuff, it's the kind of ball that you want a half-decent goalkeeper to claim, to be honest. I feel sorry for Hasenhüttl because he keeps saying we can rotate between the two when you have two top goalkeepers, but what he essentially means really is we've got two bad goalkeepers, we've got no one good enough to keep the spot. Problem position that Liverpool had for years, to be honest.
Yeah, because I never believed that with rotation. I've never known an example of a team rotating really excellent keepers, and that's been the club official line or the line from the manager. But even if I think of like Real Madrid's and PSG's who've done that over the years, when they've had, like Casillas and someone else coming through, it's always when he's been maybe in moments when he's been on a downwards trajectory career-wise and someone else is coming up, and that's when the rotations come in. Or Buffon, for example, at Juve, where he was getting rotated in and out, but it wasn't because Buffon's still the elite of the elite. It's because, it's Buffon and you still don't want to just kind of chop him. But I just feel like even Everton this year, Everton was a good example. When Pickford was having a bad time midway through the campaign, although he obviously hasn't been playing well for a while. Ancelotti was saying this kind of thing, but the reality was they had Pickford there who was struggling. Olsen, who's not a fantastic goalkeeper, but he's probably average. And the idea is, he's kind of chopping from the two, hoping that one performs it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think if you've got a really good keeper, like he's trying to say, then that keeper plays every week because you don't want to be chopping and changing it.
Exactly. Our next opponent, I suppose, fits into this bracket, in terms of Manchester United. But again, it stems a little bit from De Gea having a bit of a decline, really.
Yeah.
Comes to the back end of his career. We'll get to United, but just before, I think we should probably flag that Thiago scored, which obviously means now that he's the best player ever, because that was his biggest issue, wasn't it? Apparently he weren't scoring enough.
Yeah, I can hear BBC Sports Towers now rewriting some previous pieces.
No, I thought he played well, and it was good to see him get his goal. And I think I know it's quite late in the season, but it'd be nice for him to now have a nice streak of form to end the season. I think against Newcastle he played really, really well, absolutely dominated the game, I thought. But then he obviously got substituted against Southampton. Again, played okay and found a back of the net. So hopefully for the final few games, particularly the next game, hopefully Thiago becomes a bit of a prominent figure.
Yeah, there's one thing I have with Thiago though. I still just think off the ball he just looks a bit. He doesn't look as sharp as I was expecting him to, or based on what I'd seen, for other sides. And maybe it's just because he's in this Liverpool team at the moment. But there was a moment where I think it might be Stevens just kind of jogged past him in his own penalty area and just kind of carried the ball out. And I was actually laughing at it. I was thinking, it shouldn't be that easy for them. But I think the problem is Thiago probably can press quite well when it's all structured around him. But if you kind of leave him to do that work on his own, it's not as if he's got an abundance of pace to do that. So he can be made to look more of a fool than he is, I think, in those moments. But yeah, I just think it's I'm just flagging it. I think sometimes it's something I've noticed since he signed. It's not always as cohesive as I thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it reminds me of the old Cruyff quote. I think he said he was getting interviewed, and Cruyff said, "If this space that I'm in at the moment. He said, I'm the best defender in the world. He said, if you make me manage this whole garden on my own, I'm the worst defender in the world. And I think Thiago this season, a lot of the times he's been bypassed, a lot of the times he's been forced to make a foul and stuff. I do think it stemmed from basically Liverpool's system being less cohesive, easier to progress through. It's something that I don't think will continue next season, because I think Liverpool will become defensively better. They'll get a few players back that have a proper pre-season. The pressing should get a bit of a boost. So I think Thiago will be covered. But this season, of all years, I think has been a terrible time for Thiago to transition from German to English football.
Yeah. It's been a tough environment to go into, and I think if anything, he's been caught cold a little bit, because the idea at the start of the campaign when he was coming in, that it was going to be another really kind of dominant season with, before players were lost, everything on paper looked like it was going to be another good season. And obviously, I think he's been caught cold by that. Plus, he's been injured as well. So just these little things that, put together become can kind of impact perceptions.
Yeah, just on that as well. I was going to a footy last week with Paul Gorst, the Echo's Liverpool correspondent, and he actually pointed out to me that he's yet to play in Liverpool's best team. The closest he got to it was Goodison, but even at Goodison, Adrian was in goal, and that was the only time he played with Van Dijk from the start of a match, and that lasted about 20 minutes because Van Dijk left the pitch. So it is quite incredible when you actually delve into it and give him a fair analysis of his performance, as just how different Liverpool have been compared to the Liverpool that Thiago was supposed to be joining. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's like next year. I think we flagged pretty early on how inclined Thiago was to give away a foul. I do think his numbers have came down a bit. He's still top of the table for Liverpool. He's still committing about 2.5 fouls per 90. Second is Keita, third is Jota. So yeah, it can be improved, but I do think he's the type of player. He's a bit like, he reminds me a lot of Paul Scholes in terms of his style of play, but also how without the ball he was awful. In terms of his tendency to foul, I mean, I don't mean awful as in stupid. I mean awful as in he'll put a foot in.
Rash
is probably the word, yeah. But when you give him the ball and when you surround him with the right players, like for example when Scholes was surrounded by the likes of Keane and Ferdinand and Stam and all that, he ends up just bossing the game, So I do think players like that are a bit more reliant on the product, on the system around them to perform. Liverpool had that last season, not so much this season. But in terms of Manchester United then, Dave,
yeah,
I don't know about you. I come out of the Southampton game, despite the fact Liverpool won 2-0, I come out of the Southampton game feeling more concerned about facing United than I was previously. Not sure if it was because of how Southampton did seem to progress through Liverpool fairly easily at times, and specifically the pace of the two centre-backs that played, Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. But I come out of it feeling a little bit more concerned than normal. I'm not sure if I'm justified in thinking that.
No, I do understand that, to be honest, because I think Liverpool still look vulnerable, kind of defensively without the ball. But it's one thing looking quite vulnerable against Southampton's forwards, who I can't actually remember who even played. I think Walcott played as an attacker, didn't he? Che Adams,
Nathan
Teller, yeah. So not. I mean, Walcott looks finished. If I'm being brutally honest, I hope this never comes across his path, this video. But I think Teller's a good player. I think Che Adams also does well in terms of what he offers. But then you think you come up against this United side who've got Cavani, Rashford, Greenwood, Fernandes, Pogba. They've got fantastic attackers, but I think what really stands out is it's a multifaceted attack. AKA, they've got a bit of everything in there with those players. There's pace in there, there's skill, there's a clinical edge with the likes of Cavani. They just seem to have everything, and I feel like that attack will test any side across Europe. I do, especially if they're on song. Just know that you're playing them next in good form. I think the only positive caveat for Liverpool is playing 3 games in however many days it is, about 5 days, 6 days, something ridiculous like that. Will that take its toll? We're recording obviously Tuesday. We haven't watched the Leicester game yet. It hasn't happened, so we don't know what the team selection was like there. Whether he'll rest players tonight and potentially, because Liverpool fans might feel hard done to. I've seen a couple on social media kicking off over it, but you could understand if he rested a few tonight against Leicester and kept them for Liverpool, because at the end of the day, Liverpool are one of the biggest rivals. It's a massive game, isn't it? And that they might do that. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, going back to the original point, Josh, I can't see why you feel a bit apprehensive, because probably United's best asset is the attack, and it looks really on form at the moment. I'm just having a look now. They've scored in the last 3 games alone, 11 goals. Stretch that to 6 games. It's had 16 goals in 6 games. It's a lot.
Yeah, I just think the way in which Southampton progressed through Liverpool, but maybe didn't really make use of the situations that materialised because of quality reasons, maybe. I feel like United will. I feel like they've got the quality to make use of that. The number of shots Liverpool faced against Southampton was 12. Liverpool have only faced more than 12 twice this season. That was against Aston Villa when we got beat 7-2. That was just a complete anomaly of a game, really. And against Brighton, we faced 13. So the 12 that we faced against Southampton is quite a lot for Liverpool to face. And, as I just said before, the speed of the centre-backs in particular, when you think about the likes of Rashford and Greenwood, and, they have got players who can play the passes to feed those players too. So I think a big question going into this one that a lot of Liverpool fans are already debating is, there's a bit of a fitness concern around Kabak. We're not sure whether he's going to be fit or not. So what are you doing, Dave, in terms of Nat Phillips and Reece Williams, or Nat Phillips and Fabinho? But crucially, that results in taking Fabinho out of midfield, which, if you're looking back at the whole season, hasn't really been a fruitful decision whenever it's been made. So, what are you doing?
In the last game at Old Trafford, did Williams play in that game?
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're thinking, because that's my thought as well.
Yeah, because that was basically a dry run of this game, and he didn't. I'm really yeah. Well, I was going to say I'm really conscious of going too far, because he's a young lad, but I mean, you're not wrong. He had a really tough game, didn't he?
But the thing is, he had a really tough game, right? But without really doing much wrong. It was just he got roasted because of his level compared to the lad he was facing. Specifically Marcus Rashford. I'm thinking he's just a lot faster, a lot better at the minute. Reece is still a kid, so it's no slant on him. It's just in that game, it felt like a mismatch to the extent that, in my opinion, it decided the contest really. And as a result of that, he could play. He could have his best game, but still get done in a number of instances, and they can cost you games. So that's my tricky thing with it.
Here's my thing, Josh. I agree, and I look and I think, okay, that game was back in the end of January, wasn't it? The mid to end of January. Had he been playing several games since then, had he been playing week in, week out, getting accustomed to this level, most likely improving a lot as well, then I'll probably be backing him, have another go at this game. But since then, he played 90 minutes in a 1-0 defeat to Fulham. He played 10 minutes against Arsenal, and then he obviously played a full 90 on the weekends. So he's only made 3 senior appearances since then, and that to me says he's not going to be a better version of the player he was a few months ago. Plus, I think it's easier to play a young lad next to a more experienced player. But Phillips is still, even though Phillips is doing quite well, he's still the young lad himself, isn't he? Maybe not in terms of his age, but in terms of his experience at this level, he's still quite young. So I get what you're saying. I think the Fabinho thing was probably not the right decision on the whole, but maybe for this game, I'd be inclined to probably play him in there.
In centre half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a big problem going into this game, because if Fabinho does that and Klopp wants to stick with his 4-3, the holding player will either be Thiago, who we've established isn't the best at covering extensive ground, and Old Trafford's big, or Wijnaldum, who, certainly based on the numbers over the past few years, he's not the most inclined to essentially do things. He kind of he does a lot of the intangible stuff, covers key areas and things like that. But in terms of, I suppose, putting a foot in, like Fabinho does, I think Wijnaldum's less inclined to do a bit of that, basically. So Klopp's got a bit of a conundrum on his hands there as to what he does, because I think there's pros and cons to both decisions there. Purely based on what happened in the FA Cup, I would be really, really reluctant to play Rhys Williams, even if it means Fabinho going back in the back line. I'd like not to do that. Maybe you could play Wijnaldum as a centre half, but it's just something that it's tricky.
Yeah, there's still a centre half there that was brought in January that hasn't had a sniff.
Yeah, you don't give him his debut at Old Trafford, though, do you?
No, I mean, no. Well, no. But the point I get, I mean, I'm just double checking where we're at in terms of his injuries, because if I know he has an injury, I don't know if that's what's kept him sidelined, and he might still be injured now. Yeah, I think he is. But all I was going to say was, if he is still injured, then fine. But if not, had he been bedded in a little bit more, you would have had that extra centre back to choose from rather than going to Williams. That's just a very bizarre sign, and that transfer is just very strange.
Sums up the season.
Yeah, I think it does actually. It is a headache for Klopp. It's definitely a headache. I'm glad I'm not making the decision, because I think you're set up for the fall either way, aren't you?
Yeah, it's not one of them that's a nice problem to have, is it? It's one it's one that kind of almost guaranteed just to sting you either way, and hindsight won't be kind either to any decision that he makes unless we win. So we'll leave the Old Trafford talk there, because we talked a lot about the game a few weeks back. So yeah, but we'll do a prediction now on this one. So thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, sorry to be negative to everyone listening, but I just can't see Liverpool win. I think maybe it's such a bizarre thing. We haven't been here in a few years where it feels like United are the stronger side, but that's how it feels at the moment, in my opinion. All things considered, maybe it might end up being a bit of a draw. If where both teams kind of cancel each other out. You know what? I think I'm going to go for the score draw, 1-1. Actually, I think a score draw might be the one here.
I find it extremely difficult to preview this one, and the reason for that is because I've got no idea who's going to play in defence for Liverpool. I've got no idea who's going to play for United tonight, and I've got no idea who Solskjaer is going to play on Thursday against Liverpool, and how tired those players are going to be. I've got no specific background in the sports science area and all that, so it's a difficult one to preview. But looking at the two teams, United are just so much more practical at the minute. They're so much more effective at doing meaningful things than Liverpool. Liverpool are very well coached, you can see that, but at the same time, just lacking, particularly in attack when it comes to penetrating and offering that cutting edge. So I think Liverpool might lose this one. I think it might be 2-1 to United. But, it's hard to say that without knowing the teams, how tired they might be. Things like that. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's been such a tough season. Not only for Liverpool just being like a Jekyll and Hyde in terms of results, but it's been a really tough season just to predict what's going to happen. It's been a really tough season to predict, but then also everything's kind of petered out on a whimper. Relegation's done and dusted. Premier League's pretty much done and dusted. It's only really Europe that's anything interesting, which kind of sums up the campaign.
Yeah, put it this way, I actually think if Liverpool was to start this game with Lindelof and Bailly in centre half, I think Liverpool would be favourites to win for me. I'd probably have Liverpool down to win, but just that area in particular just looks so much of a mismatch compared to United scoring 11 goals in the last 3 games. So yeah, we'll see anyway. And then we've got West Brom, Dave, who are already down, and it should be an easy game, really, shouldn't it? Well, I don't want to sound like one of them, but
no, yeah, I mean everything points to it should, but do you not find that relegated teams always have this weird kind of madness about them where they just, without that pressure, and it just weird things tend to happen when you come up against them. So I'm not tempting fate there, but I don't know. I guess it's just I'm forewarning.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. And I think specifically Allardyce as well. Over the past few years, whenever Liverpool have had any sort of weakness about them, Allardyce has been really, really good at exploiting that. And he just manages to sometimes leave matches against Liverpool with having snuck some sort of point. And I'm not sure how, and I'm always thinking, how's he done that? So I probably wouldn't rule it out, to be honest. Since then, he's been relegated for the first time in his career. I actually think he's been a little bit unfortunate because some of the signs he made, I think, come in a bit late, and he signed Snodgrass as well. He was clearly going to be his new set piece man. We know Allardyce gets goals from set pieces, and Snodgrass has been injured a little bit. But they've got Matheus Pereira, Dave, who I think is probably a bit likely to remain in the Premier League. Do you think?
Yeah, he's a good option on fantasy football. He does good things. He contributes in the attacking third. I think he's a good player technically.
How would you feel out of interest if Everton started chasing him?
Yeah, I think he'd be a good move for an Everton or an equivalent side. Maybe even like a West Ham if they don't keep Lingard after this summer. Just that kind of level, European chasers. Because I think he's definitely got that ability or looks to have it anyway. And with some, how old is he? I was going to say with some further development, but I can't remember how old he is.
I'll check now, but something is telling me 24.
Yeah. Well, just
25.
Just turned 25.
So 6 days ago.
Yeah, so not even in his prime years. Yeah, I think he could definitely be in a kind of top 8 Premier League side next season.
Yeah, I think he offers a bit of quality from set pieces as well. In fact, I think he scored 2, didn't he, against Everton earlier in the season?
Do you have to remind me? No, I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was a crazy 5-2 game or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think someone got sent off, didn't he? That was when Bilic went mad.
Yeah, Gibbs it was. Gibbs got sent off.
Bad tackle, actually, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then he kind of said something like as he was walking off, I'll do it again. just get the stuff you'd expect to see down in the Power League and not on the Premier League game. I didn't realise Pereira had actually scored as many as 10 goals this season.
No, I didn't realise that either.
For the relegated side, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think he's obviously a talent that Liverpool will have to watch out for.
Yeah.
Around set pieces with an Allardyce team as well. That's something you have to be careful of too. But other than that, I can't see too many ways around how they cause more problems for Liverpool and Liverpool cause for them. I expect Liverpool to win this game. I will say that the striker that they've picked up, I think he's coming in January, is a bit of a handful. And I'd like to have Kabak back by that game. Phillips will be up for a fight, but he can put himself about that player. So
which one is it? Is it
Diagne?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I've just got it.
Yeah. So predictions on that one, Dave?
Yeah, same as yourself. I think although Liverpool are going away, I just beyond unless something crazy happened where they just pulled out some mad performance. And one thing I will say is West Brom, beyond being a relegated side, they have had those moments where they've just kind of produced these crazy results. Like I've got the results in front of me. That 3-3 against Chelsea was a bit wild. Then they beat Chelsea 5-2 at Stamford Bridge. They beat Southampton 3-0. So they might have a bit of madness in them. But I think if you pushed me now, I'd say I'm going for a comfortable afternoon for Liverpool. Maybe a 3-0.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say 2-0. I wouldn't actually rule out them scoring, to be honest. But I think I'm going to go 2-0 on that one. But we'll move on anyway, trying to squeeze everything in. So we're going to go for our teams of the season, Dave. And we're going to do it in typical Analysing Anfield fashion in terms of I don't know Dave's team and he doesn't know mine. So should we get started?
Yeah, you go first, mate, because I feel like you always give me the polite to go first. And yeah, by the way, I pushed the recording of this show 10 minutes back, for people listening, and that was purely because of the headache that this gave me in terms of trying to pick me starting 11. And I'm still not 100% on it, but we'll see how we go.
Well, have you done 4-3-3?
No, I've done a 4-2-3-1.
Right, okay. We'll go position by position then.
Yeah, because I still think we can still do that. Even with the slightly different formation.
Yeah, there should be plenty of players that we've both got. So
yeah.
So in terms of your goalkeeper, I will be disappointed if you haven't got the same keeper as me. This is a fairly easy pick for me.
Right.
All day I've went Emi Martinez.
Emi Martinez, yeah, all day. Yeah,
there's no debate for me.
No, I know the likes of Carragher, Neville. I think I know one of them had Mendy, but Martinez has just been, leading every metric, hasn't he? He's just had a transformational impact on Villa.
Yeah, I mean, he was a bargain signing anyway, but even his contribution, we referenced earlier that he's overperforming in goal. He saved Villa about 7 or 8 goals, and his distribution has been really good. He instigates counter-attacks with how quickly he wants to release the ball after he's claimed it. Claims a fair few crosses as well, I think I'm right in saying. So yeah, top keeper. Having a good season. So left back, again, I think this one's easy.
Yeah, I've gone Luke Shaw.
Yeah, I have as well.
Yeah, I think there's some honourable mentions, but Luke Shaw's the one, isn't he?
Yeah, he's having a season that I suppose is a bit overdue, but I did think he did seem capable of this sort of season when United signed him. Obviously, he's tailed off a little bit for a variety of reasons, but he's having a good year. So centre halves, go for two of them. So my two, again, not really overthinking it. I've gone for Stones and Diaz.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think Diaz has had a not obviously we're not saying he's as good, but just in terms of impact, he's had like a Van Dijk kind of impact on City's defence. And then Stones is just the resurrection. He looks like a completely different player. Looks to come in that team and keep the likes of Laporte completely out the picture. They bought Aki and Aki can't get a look in either. I think Stones looks really good again.
Yeah, funny enough as well, he's similar to Shaw in terms of he's having a season that you knew he was capable of when he was signed. So no, fair play to him because I do like Stones as a player. I think he's capable of being really. I think he was getting touted as like the next like Manchester City's version of PK when he moved to City as Pep Guardiola was appointed. So I don't think he's quite that level, but he's having a good season. Fair play to him.
Yeah, he is.
So you're right back. Might have a bit of.
Yeah, this was tough. This was tough. Yeah. This one. So I've opted to go with Cancelo.
I've gone the same.
Have you? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm appeased by that decision actually. Just because I think, basically my headache with it, I don't know if it was the same for you, Josh, was it was twofold, I guess. One was he plays different positions sometimes, doesn't he? But as most of his mates have come as a right back. But the other issue I was trying to work out on when I've watched him, if I felt like he'd been so good as a player or he'd been a beneficiary of the system City were playing, with him coming as the extra midfielder. But when I've actually mulled it over, as I said, I delayed recording the show to really think about it. I think he deserves the credit.
Yeah, I think he's been a bit of a transformational player this season, specifically on the way City have developed, this whole strikerless system and stuff. He's been really central to it. I think Pep would have found it a bit trickier to play in such a way without a player as unique as Cancelo. Offered a lot in attack and on the ball. He does not look out of place whatsoever in central midfield. So I didn't actually think about that one for too long. I think there weren't too many competitors for him. I think Soufal is an honourable mention. He's had a great season, bargain.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think he's on his own, really. I do think Trent has had a strong second half of the campaign, but early on, I think early on's put him out of it for me.
Yeah. I think what happened with him was, as you said, he no one wanted to get on his back too much because he seemed to get a lot of flack around February after he didn't get called up. But if we're being brutally honest, if you remember the first half of the season, he wasn't great, and that's kind of why it all played out the way it did.
So your two centre mids.
Yeah. Okay. So the midfield was really tough, to be honest with you. I've ended up going for two players that I actually think are better engaging higher up the pitch, but it's the only place I could get them in. So I've gone Gundogan and Kante.
Okay. I've gone Gundogan.
Gundogan.
But the other player I found hard to get a partner for Gundogan because of the picks, really. Like I felt like Declan Rice should be in there. I didn't put him in, but I felt like he's had a great season, Declan Rice. So I haven't actually picked between these two players. It's basically take your pick out of De Bruyne and Mason Mount. That they were my two. To partner Gundogan. I think De Bruyne has had better seasons, but he's still been ridiculous to the point that you shouldn't really look beyond him too much. And I think Mason Mount, he's really went up in my estimations this season. He's well better than the player I thought he was initially. Chelsea have rotated a lot this season, and he's been a mainstay through Lampard, through Tuchel, Southgate even. So he is a really, really good. What he's going to be when he's 25, 26, he could easily be Chelsea's next Lampard. He's that good, I think. So I found it hard to exclude him. So Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne / Mason Mount are my midfield too. Very offensive, but we're not doing tactical systems, are we?
So should I go with my number 10?
Number 10.
Yeah, like me attacking mid. So this one was really hard because my two choices were pretty obvious. Pushing De Bruyne into there or Bruno. And as we're talking now, I'm quite decided. I actually think this is going to be controversial, but I think I'm going to go with De Bruyne. You touched on it already. I know. But I just, if you offered me De Bruyne or Bruno, I will take De Bruyne. That's my preference. And I like Bruno, but yeah,
that's a fair show. But the season Bruno's had and the impact he has on just United's ability to win is just insane. Like, if you look at him play, he's not particularly quick. He's not strong. He's not like a dribbling type. He doesn't seem to have too many massive strengths to his game. He's just really, really quick in the head and output merchant naturally. And as I said, he just does loads of stuff that really impact winning. And he's been decisive for United. I'm not sure how many points worse off they'd be without him this season, but it'd be a fair amount.
So I agree with everything you've just said. The only thing that I think about is, it's not a new argument, but you take all the set pieces out, all the penalties, and you're still looking at a really good player. But I'm not sure if you're looking at the same output slash influence on the side. Whereas De Bruyne, for me, although he also benefits from set pieces, and he was on penalties, don't know if he is on them anymore. I just feel like he's got a little bit more that he can do in open play. And for that reason, as I said, if someone said you can only have one of them in this setup, I'm going to put De Bruyne in there.
Okay, my number 10 was Bruno. Anyway, so bit of differentiation
for all the reasons stated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who have you got on your left?
I'm glad you went on the left. Yeah. So really, you know the way you were talking about Mason Mount a lot there. I would have been talking about, and Mount was a consideration for me on the left because obviously he's gone up there so on occasions. I think he plays really well. I agree with everything you've said about him. Foden was also another one for me consideration because he's great, but I think I've gone with a play that a lot of people have forgotten about because he's been out for like 2 months. But I'd put Grealish up out there, Jack Grealish.
Yeah, he's my pick as well.
Okay, so
I absolutely couldn't look beyond him. He's had a great season.
Were you surprised he was overlooked by Neville and Carragher a little bit?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm a massive fan of the pair of them, but that's definitely 100% recency bias. Because despite the fact he's missed 2 months, he's still played about 600 more minutes than Foden. So it's not like he hasn't played enough to count. He's just been injured for the past month or two, and up until that injury, Aston Villa were doing really well. I can't remember where they were in the table. They'd maybe just suffered from a little bit of a rock in form, but he was largely responsible for carrying a lot of their attack, and he was up there with the best players in the league, to be honest.
Yeah, he's just he's literally the target of everything attacking wise, isn't he? Like every attacking play is using him as the key cog. Metrics back that up as well, and it was no kind of surprise that once he was out the side, the team fell off a cliff a little bit. I think they've steadied the ship a little bit, but they're still not the same. So, yeah, I'm surprised he got overlooked. So, like yourself, he's my left attacker.
Yeah, I'm just gonna find something here just to put a bit of perspective on how influential Grealish has been. So in terms of, I know this is a specific quality, but in terms of carries into the penalty box, just simply carrying the ball into the penalty box, Grealish is still top in the whole of Europe with 75, despite the fact he's been out for 2 months. Second is Mbappe on 64, then Rashford 58, Sterling 56. So his ability to specifically get Villa into really valuable areas is right up there.
Unrivaled, you could say.
Yeah, and then you put in the fact of how creative he is. I think and he doesn't actually take set pieces really, either. He doesn't take corners and like that. Grealish, well, not many anyway. And I think last time I checked, I think he's top of the league for key passes per 90, just above De Bruyne. Without taking set pieces, he's an incredible player.
Yeah, all the above, yeah.
Yeah, so go to the right side.
This is a really tough one. This probably my toughest position, and I've opted to go for someone a little bit less obvious, but I think when he's played, he's been kind of probably the best attacker on that side of the pitch in the Premier League. I've gone for Mahrez.
Okay, interesting choice.
Yeah, the only issue is he didn't play 2000 minutes. He played about 1900. But I think when he's played, he's really stepped up this year. He's been probably one of City's best attackers. So on that basis, I'll go Mahrez.
Yeah, he was considered by me. He did cross my mind.
Just out of curiosity, what put you off?
I think what put me off was just other players and what they've done for their respective teams. compared to what Mahrez has done for City. I think Mahrez has been good and stuff, but other players I think have had more of an impact, as let's say maybe. So I was torn between two for this one. I haven't really picked. I'm leaning slightly towards Son Heung-min. Again, he's one who seems to be forgotten about a little bit because he's had a slightly quieter the last few weeks, although he's picked it up again really recently. But he's been really, really good this season, Son. And I think obviously there'll be listeners now screaming, Mo Salah.
We should address that.
Yeah, I know why. And he was my other consideration. But the reason I haven't picked Salah is because despite the fact that he's carried Liverpool's attack and he's been by far and away Liverpool's best player, this season he's retained his level from before and stuff. He still hasn't been that amazing, really, when you look at other players in the league. So, put it this way, a very easy metric to use to capture this is just goals plus assists minus penalties per 90. And for that metric, so you take Salah's pens away, plus his goals and assists per 90 together, he's 16th in the league with an average of 0.6. Well, I suppose he's joint 14th then, I suppose, yeah, because the two players above him have got exactly the same average as him. He averages about the same number of goals and assists per 90, excluding penalties, as Harvey Barnes and James Maddison. And above him, you've got Sterling, even though he's had a very bad campaign, I think, or a quiet campaign by his standards. Rashford's above him, Mahrez is above him, De Bruyne's above him, Bamford's above him, Grealish, Foden, Mikel Antonio. And then in 5th place, you've got Son with an average of 0.82 per 90 compared to Salah's 0.6. And in terms of goals for the season as well, again, excluding penalties, Son has scored 16, Salah scored 14. And Son's played in a team that's just generally been a lot less attacking, a lot less dominant. They've had a change in manager. And he's overperformed on the finishing side as well, which is something that tends to fluctuate. But I do think he's top of the league for his finishing in terms of converting his shots into goals. I think he's overperformed by about 8 goals or something, is he?
You know what? Yeah.
But that's why I've gone for Son over Salah a little bit. Yeah, really tricky one. I wouldn't argue the point too much against either of them, but I just think Son has been a bit more effective this season. He's done a bit more.
Son was on my list is there, Mahrez, Son, and then brackets speak about Salah because I knew we would. The thing is with Salah as well, it's not just, the numbers really reaffirm what we've, I think, witnessed watching him. He just hasn't looked as crisp, I think, in the penalty area. He hasn't looked like he's got that same explosive power in terms of beating people. I think he has looked by a normal forward standards, he hasn't, but by his standards, he's looked a lot more wasteful than he has in previous years. And as we just pointed out there, the numbers back that up. So, yeah. But yeah, Son, really good case. I'll stick with Mahrez for the reasons stated. But, right wing was really tough.
And then finally, your striker.
Yeah, I think this is the easiest one of them all for me. Kane.
Yeah, I've gone Harry Kane myself.
Yeah.
I think he's been, again, in an attack that hasn't really been that attacking. He's carried the team, really. Double figures, goals and assists, and currently leading the way in the Premier League, although he has benefited from a few pens. But, I think
he's still ridiculous. I think he's still got the most non-penalty goals in the division anyway. Even when you take the penalties away, which is impressive. Yeah, it's only, I think it's him then Calvert-Lewin, one behind.
Yeah. So we were gonna do our signing of the season, manager of the season, player of the season, young player of the season, and under the radar signing of the season. But time is cutting us short. So what we'll do, Dave, we'll save them for next week. So tune in next week if you want to find those out. And obviously at the time, we will review United. Hopefully we'll beat them. We'll probably have a little touch on West Brom. And we'll look ahead to Liverpool have got the following weekend. So yeah, Dave, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks very much, mate. Cheers, everyone.
And we will be back next week. Cheers.